Hello everyone, welcome to the finals week for your CSC281 course. For this final, you will have until the end of our week, Sunday 11:59 p.m. to submit it. And to go ahead and get started, what you can do is you can go to your submissions folder, navigate down to your final project section here, and then you can go ahead and click on this link here. Now, when this is posted, you'll see a link in here when you go to your submissions folder. And what I would like you to do is just go ahead and grab up the zip file. It will download it onto your downloads. This should be the same for Mac, whichever program you're using. And you will have this package with a few 4-question Java files and then a final driver. Now, an easiest way to go ahead and get this running in your Eclipse is to open up your Eclipse. And then I created a new package for testing. So you don't need to create this one if you already have one. But in your source folder where you've been putting all of your homework files in your package, you can go ahead and grab this folder from the zip and then just drag it in there like so. You can hit copy files and folders and hit OK, and it will be good to go out the box. You could also create a new package by going to new package. You can call this final or CSC281 final. Note that if you change the package name, you will also need to change the package name on the final there. So just make sure you're aware of that. The easiest way to do this is actually drag it from here. So the way this final is going to work is you're going to have the instructions built into the Java files of each of these. There's a brief overview of what this final is going to look like. And what you should be trying to do is getting your final driver. So when I hit play on this guy, to output something that looks like this. So now it doesn't need to be identical to this output that you're using, but it should be essentially the same concept there. Now, all this testing is going to be the same. So for instance, when we get to question 2, I'll show you how to uncomment them. I'm going to go over each question pretty briefly here. Question 1 is straightforward. It's just a few comments. So what you'll say here is you're going to get a question, explain what inheritance is in Java, what is single inheritance, can we do multiple? And in this section here, you're going to type up your response. So inheritance is XYZ, and then so forth down here. So answer all these questions here. Make sure you get all of them. It doesn't need to be a long-winded paragraph. It's going to be mostly from materials from week 6 to 10. So just make sure you review that. Now, outside of question 1, there's going to be coding questions, and the layout of these questions here is that you're going to be given a brief overview of what the topic is. So for our first question 2, for question 2, it's basic inheritance. You're going to implement 2 classes, the animal class, and every time I talk about implementing a class, you're going to have the following layout. So you're going to get the attributes, and really this is kind of giving you an answer right away. It's going to be pretty similar in how you code this, but the attributes go first, and then a constructor. So you don't need to worry about making a default constructor. You're mostly going to be making a parameterized one, and then you're going to have some methods here. So the methods are going to be a part of this class to make it work. Now, after this, you're going to be asked to implement the dog class, which is going to need to inherit from the animal class. So remember, we have a special keyword that does that for us, that goes after the G in dog. This dog class is going to have the same attributes. And remember, if you're using the inheritance concept, you can simply use the super constructor here to save yourself some time with setting these up. And then you're also going to have a new attribute for the dog class called speak. So you are not going to be able to super the speak attribute because it doesn't belong in the animal class, but it is still going to be something you'll need to set. And you can look at the previous assignments that are there in order to see how to do that. Now, what you're also going to see here is for the constructor here, another parameterized constructor that makes a dog object. And then you're going to have a few methods. So these methods, if you've done this correctly, these methods should already be declared because that's how inheritance works. So you don't need to redeclare them from dog, but you will see that you have this talk method that will need to be implemented. Now, again, these static classes here are going to be ran over here. And what we can see here essentially is when you're building this out, let's just say that I did my question 2. And I'm trying to see how I can get this to work. I'm going to scroll down into my driver, and I'm going to start uncommenting a few of these comments here. So one of them here, creating an animal age 5 with black fur and blue eyes. So what I'm going to do is try to uncomment this bit of code. And we'll see here now that I created this animal, but if I look at this error, I'm either going to have to remove the arguments or create a constructor. So you can either go ahead and go straight from question 2 and start code again right after you read this. You can also go ahead and try to uncomment a few of these commands hit these suggestions, and then this can also put you on the right track with doing it. Be warned though, if you do the this method here, it might mess up the formatting that we have here. So that is just up to you on how to do it. But again, this should be pretty much identical to the homeworks that you've been doing, so nothing too out of the blue. So the first one is a basic inheritance. After you go ahead and create the animal, you're also going to create a dog. And you'll see here that these testing methods, each of these, a.getAge, a.getFurColor, these are all going to test to make sure that you put them in that you did the methods correctly. Cool. So I'm going to leave these commented out just so I can make sure the code runs. For your third question, what you're going to be asked to do is use the comparable interface. So you're going to make another basic computer class. It's going to have tree attributes, a string of brand, int computer age, int and RAM. And then it's going to have a single parameter constructor that takes in a string, an int, and an int for each of these attributes. Now you're going to have a few methods. These getters are pretty straightforward. You're just going to return the attributes over here. These two methods are a bit more complex, so you're going to have to return a toString method. So this is toString is going to actually describe each of these tree attributes. And you can see here in the final driver, when we look at question tree, this is the toString method that's running. So you can see here that this code runs up here because I did a system.out.println of PC1 and PC2. So that's where this code is coming from. And then we also do the testing compare to. So I want to cover the compare to method. It's a little more complicated. So what you're going to need to do is try to implement this comparable interface. And remember, please look at weeks 8 and 9 on how to do that, but it's going to be something special over here. And after you implement it, you're going to want to use this compare to method in order to compare two computers. Now, essentially, this compare to method is going to return an int, which is the amount of bytes that are inside the computer. And a way that we know which one to return is that if the computer is younger, so if you're comparing one computer to the other and is younger, i.e. the computer age is younger than the other one, then you're going to return the RAM that belongs to the younger computer. If they're the same age, you're just going to return 0. And then that's all you'll really need to worry about. So that's just going to be an overridden compare to method. We did something with adult student .java when we did this earlier. So please look at that assignment. And remember, we need to have that keyword implements with the comparable interface. And again, when you are done with that one, the output you should get is two toString methods. So you could say this is computer brand Dell, as around 5 years old with this amount of RAM. And then it's another system.out.println. Here, I go ahead and say that the PC2 ASUS that we created is going to be the one that is returned. And you can see here in my code, when I do my print statements, the RAM of the younger computer is, and I do a compare to between these two PCs, I get the 4500 back because that's the amount of RAM that is in this ASUS one. Awesome. Now for our last question here, it is going to be implementing an abstract category and classes. So first of all, you're going to have this static abstract class called factory. It is going to take in the attributes of factory name, employee amounts, and int produced amounts. And then it's going to have a constructor that is going to take in attributes for each of those three guys. And remember, it's going to have some methods, but abstracts, you don't implement methods in there. So you're going to want to make sure that each of these guys are abstract methods that you implement. Now, after you do this, the class tool factory is also going to have the following specifications. So this guy down here is going to be implementing the abstract class. So after you go ahead and do steal factory, you're going to say extends abstract class, essentially, and that's the class over here that you'll be extending. And then, of course, what you're going to do for this steal factory is you're going to have the attributes of factory name, employee amount, and produced amount. Now, because you're implementing an abstract class already, these should pretty much be covered for you if you use a supers. So if you use the super constructor in order to make sure that you're giving the parameters back up there, you should be good to go. But the one thing that you can super is this year created, because that is belonging to the factory that's here. Great. Now, after you go ahead and implement this constructor, you're going to have a few methods. These methods are very similar to the ones that are declared up here, but the problem is that you didn't implement them yet. So because they're abstract, this is automatically going to happen. And now at the very end, you're going to have this toString method that is going to return all 4 of the attributes describing the factory. And if we look at the output we have up here, we could see here that my question 4 test is much more simple than the other two. It's just a simple 2-line of code I go ahead and I create a factory called Miller's Steel. It has 75 employees, 1,500 amount produced, and 1998 was the year it's created. And then if I printed out this steel factory, I get a message that describes steel factory called Miller's Steel, made in 1998 with 75 employees that produces 1,500 units of steel. Awesome. So again, these are all concepts that are just a bit of a different shift scenario from the homework you've already done. Please make sure that you don't modify anything outside of what I'm showing you here. You can add in your own tests if you'd like. For instance, if you want to make sure that your A is working, you could do something like a.getAge. That's fine. But in general, you're going to want to try to aim to get your console output to look a bit like this here. Great. So you'll have until the end of the week to finish this. The homework assignment solutions will all be posted as well after this video is up. So make sure you check the content page on D2L for that. And then any questions, please email me or come to office hours as well. Thank you and best of luck.